Hey!
What up, Bradford? Hey!
Oh, dude, this is exciting. So we're excited to talk to a certain fellow today, and he's going to be calling in. This is like our live radio show that we've always wanted, dude.
I know, and now it's happening. This is the call-in number. I had to give him the call-in number, so it's hilarious. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see if it works.
Oh, if only we just had a producer at the board being able to just patch him in.
That's you.
Oh, shoot.
We'll wait for him to call in. But how you doing, dude?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. We have a very big weekend coming up, so that's obviously exciting.
Oh, dude, we got a big week coming up.
Oh yeah, we got a lot going on.
It's a lot. It's a lot, but it's gonna be fun.
Yes.
So I'm trying not to get overwhelmed.
Right.
With the amount of work that we have coming up next week.
Well, I mean, obviously your work week is slightly different from mine because you're doing a bunch of the GH.
Yeah, a lot of GH. The most I think I've ever done in a week.
Have you looked at your words? Do you have a lot of words?
Dude, I have a lot of freaking words, dude.
Really?
Yes. It's gonna be it's good stuff. I mean, it's all good stuff. It's good story. It's fun.
You know what? I was gonna ask a dumb question. Is it like dramatic or fun? When does Jason ever do fun?
Well, it's a lot of the Cyrus stuff, right?
Oh, sure.
That's kind of that whole storyline's kind of revving up a little bit. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on there. So it's doing a lot of scenes that have intention. Let's just say that, right? As opposed to just kind of either filler or recap. We're doing some good stuff. So
some things that are moving forward.
Yeah.
That is fun.
Dude. Yeah. It's
I can't help but notice that you didn't call Spinelli for any tech assistance.
Hold on.
Is Brick there?
I might have.
Oh, you call?
No, I mentioned you last week, I think.
Thanks.
And I think I mentioned you this week.
Thanks.
So
if
not, I'll just throw it in.
Yeah, right. Well, but here's the thing. Now that I'm in town, you can reference me in a less pointed way and say that I'm doing something for you, and I don't have to be on camera.
Well, yeah, but the point is, let's get you on camera. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna keep adding you to scenes
until he's established in this scene. So you know what you should say, dude, is, Cyrus, when I see you tomorrow, I'm gonna have my master hacker with me. So we'll see you then. So then they have to write me into the next episode.
They'll be like, Steve, that's enough with you and Bradford. You guys are done. Stop. That's so funny, dude.
I'm excited for you. It's always fun to be busy. But yes, I know one of your busiest days is Friday, which is we have a caller. Caller.
Woohoo!
All right. Hello.
Hey, Max Gail's with us, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, Max?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh,
we're great. We were just talking about how we feel like we're old radio show hosts now because we're just like waiting for a caller to call in. It feels very old fashioned. I love it.
So I gave you stepping off the plank there.
That's right.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Max, thank you first for joining us. We appreciate that for sure.
My pleasure. I remember the last time that we all talked together. Of course, you and I talked yesterday, Steve. But I had a good time. I got to blab on. You let me go on and on, which I am not the soundbite sort of guy. But so let me say that whenever it's time to wrap it up,
Okay, good to know. We can pull out the cane and just pull you out.
That's right.
Amazing. So, I mean, now we can say, looking back, because I mean, you have officially wrapped your time on the show. I mean, what are your kind of, your general feelings about that 2 years? Looking back, how does it feel to be done with it?
I think, well, for one thing, I think it was more like 2 years and 8 months.
Oh, wow, sure.
I think something like that. But anyway, I'm in a sort of suspended, I see, transition space. So there's a part of me that's, look to just move on and what's next and who am I now? And I can start standing up straight more. And and paying more attention to, because I just, always, I did feel there was a certain amount of, those are things that maybe Mike did in the beginning. He walked all over the place, but in general, it's not anyway, there's that, I paying more attention to not, to not spacing out, all those things. And at the same time, I feel like I'm, a part of something that has this long history that I never really, fully appreciated, certainly not in the way that I do now, and a part of a community. And, there is a little sort of kind of door that stays open from, Frank saying, no, we're not quite done with you yet. And people having all kinds of ideas, none of which really make sense to me. About being Mike's twin brother. I say, that would be a different character, a different person, a different story. That would just, don't confuse what we all did together with, and but I do sometimes say, I could be his twin sister, since I have a twin sister. I think that, maybe,
you'd make a fetching woman, Max.
All in all, it was. I'll let that go without. Okay, that's a fetch. But one time in high school in Adair with my brother, we dressed up as women and went with my dad and my 5 sisters to the Rotary father and daughter.
That's amazing.
By the time we were downtown in our wigs and our whole outfits and everything, on the elevator, and people were looking at us sideways, and other people we were passing, and we were going like, what in the made us think?
Was it just for fun, or was there going to be like free food that you wanted?
No, it was, I grew up, my dad was involved with Rotary, and so we had the father and son and father and daughter, and it was something, and I don't really quite know where that idea came from, other than we were like, let's see if we can pull it off.
Fun.
And I remember showing up then later back and at the track meet, and I couldn't get all the lipstick off my, still had a little.
That's awesome.
But anyway, it was an extraordinary experience. I think I learned a lot about life, and certainly what's going on with families and Alzheimer's and other, issues. And I learned so much from people on the cast and crew who had their own experiences, and I learned a huge amount about acting, and being in the moment. And, it was just a great experience. And so I loved it. I'm still talking about it.
Well, what's funny, Max, what you said about, the conversations about how could this possibly be extended? And that is always kind of a persistent topic of conversation in daytime, as how, like when you have something that works, boy, do you want it to work for as long as it can. And sometimes that desire to make it last as long as you can diminishes the story, right? Some stories are not meant to be year-long stories. They're meant to be 6-month stories. They're meant to be, 9-month stories. And looking back on what ended up being your arc, how do you feel about that arc? Was the time, that 2 years, 8 months, did that feel about right?
I think it sure ended up right, and it ended up in a balance, because while some people are ready for it to be over, and there is a larger percentage of people dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's that goes on for a long time, so I think that in that way of honoring that, I think that, on that last day, in a short part of the conversation with Frank, and now I can't say her name, the wonderful actress who plays the nurse, that I had a wonderful set of scenes with her in the chapel.
Becky, was it Becky?
Yes, I'm totally blank, because she was just wonderful, and it was a great experience and stuff. And she came over, and we shared that, and
it's awesome.
And Frank said, yeah, that's when we decided that we needed to, that there were more legs on this story than we had in mind. So they were coming up with ways to keep Mike involved. I had buried the body, I had, and there was a part of that I'm going, I physically redug a grave. You know, I mean, I've used a shovel a lot. You know what I mean? I worked road crews and stuff. You know what I mean? It was like, and lifted that body out of the grave, maybe even if it was a shallow grave, and carried it and put it in the trunk of my car, you know, and drove it up somehow because of the idea this was going to be, you know what I mean? Where there were some things that were just really, really a stretch. And there were things about, you know, not knowing when I'm telling him I remember, I don't know what I remember, you know what I mean? And Mike spent a lot of time not knowing things. So it wasn't just that, but so there was a stretch in there with the marriage, you know, that I just felt like we were on another kind of ground. And I do feel that, while, you know, every form of, you know, whether it's, you know, the hipness of HBO and Netflix or primetime TV or big films or small, you know, everything has its own conceits, you know, its own suspension of disbelief and all of that. And so does the real world. It's just look at what's going on, you know, it's just weird as anything. And so, you know, but I feel like there was something rooted in the Alzheimer's experience that gave everybody something to, you know, Mo and I talked once, you know, because he doesn't like it to get too big, and I say, well, you know, I don't you know, I don't know if there's a right and wrong, you know, and you know, and you know, a lot of things like that, just not knowing and exploring, but caring, and it drew together all the people that were drawn into that circle with a chance. Steve, I remember, you know, you doing the scene with the earthquake. And, you know, like great theater, you know, I mean, it was happening, and it was happening, and you were playing, and, you know, so without the great big fancy expensive production benefits that would have turned the scene into a week's work, you know, so that can be done. And as actors, we know that, you know, and at the same time, there is something about that wonderful involvement with soaps around the village gossip, what's going on, the kind, you know, and the chops that people bring to it is extraordinary, and commitment and all of that, you know, everybody all the way around. And so that's an incredible thing. But with this particular story, I think it gave people a chance to be more, you know, sincere.
Yeah, I mean, it's
in a certain way, you know?
Yeah, I told you yesterday that, first of all, when somebody's perfectly cast, like Mark Teschner has this magic touch of finding people. Like, I can't even imagine anyone else coming in and doing what you did, but bringing the energy, the depth of acting that you have, and having that connection with Maurice, that just made this story. You couldn't take your eyes off you guys, right? And it's like, even just walking around the building, anytime I see you guys together, I'm like, I got to watch this scene. And it's so awesome to see, because General Hospital does a great job with social issues, right? And stories.
Yes.
But this has to be one of the greatest stories that they told. And, you know, I know you don't like to take a lot of credit, and you're very humble, but
no, I think I'm pretty realistic.
Well, but Max, I mean, the job that you did coming in here, and because Brad, like I told you before, Bradford and I, we were doing a 4-hour hang with some fans, and people bring it up all the time, and they thank us. They're like, "Thank you guys for doing it." I go, "Thank Max Gail and General Hospital, because they're the ones who brought this story, alive and touched so many people." I don't remember a story touching this many people, Bradford.
Well, and I can't recall an instance on Twitter or anywhere in social media where they're like, "My God, this Alzheimer's storyline just keeps dragging on." No, like I didn't hear anyone have that reaction. Where
nobody did.
Where normally, no matter how good the story is, if it's a storyline that has been played for a while, somebody's gonna say, "Hey, I'm tired of seeing this." I didn't hear that once anywhere, which I gotta say is probably a first.
Well, of course, that's very cool. That's better than, you know, you might consider another line of work, or don't ever do that in public again, or, you know, but I think, that has a lot to do with all the things we were just saying. But yes, Mo and I were alive, together right from the first reading.
Yeah.
Right
first
when
audition.
we started, and I'm looking at him and just taking that moment, So, and he has that gift with a lot, and you guys support. I mean, the way it's people asked me about humor the other day in another phone conversation I was in and stuff, and that there can be a lot of tension on comedy sets, but I mean, the way you guys tease each other has always got that honoring under it, of when we actually get these moments that we get to do the work.
Right.
We're there, and they're in that moment, and but it, I found that kind of with everybody else too as it unfolded, and so that was, very cool.
Yeah. Hey,
very
Max,
cool
I'm curious. During the shutdown, during that break of however many months, obviously you're used to coming in and out of work, but once you get used to our kind of schedule, and then you had to kind of put it down for 4 or 5 months, how was that for you?
Well, it was good. My life is full. It seems, especially around the moment, the now. I mean, I can look back and say, now, what was I doing last month? And I can look ahead and say, oh yeah, I'm on wide open, but right around now, there's always a lot going on. So I don't get anywhere near done the kind of things I'm thinking I'd like to, get organized, from my taxes to my music to,
Right.
whatever. So, so that part was good. There was a while there where I thought, well, now if I was running this deal, I'd say, let's say that Mike very sadly got COVID and he passed away, but nobody was able to get in and see him.
Oh no!
And,
Oh gosh!
No
that
way, man.
After all that, after all that groundwork you laid, that would have been a pretty low note to go out on.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wasn't. No, I was just trying to gear up for in case,
Yeah.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, that's true too.
But
I think we all were.
Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, if ABC had said, "Hey, you're not coming back," it would have been like, "Poor Charles. Everybody got COVID.
Everyone's dead. Everyone's dead."
Well, then, there's that. That's an interesting one too, isn't it? The decision to not acknowledge it at all. And I haven't seen anything about that, although it is a strange feeling in a way to think, oh, wait a minute, now this is General Hospital, and but that gets into then how politicized the virus has become.
Sure.
Yeah,
so there could be incredible stories to tell of vast consequence.
Sure.
One of them being pissing somebody off. So I think it was the right decision.
Sure.
Yeah. But interesting there in masks, right? Did you notice that when you rehearse with a mask on, you're kind of connecting in a somewhat different way?
Yeah.
It is interesting. It is. It's all about the eyes, and it is. It is amazing. Depending on who you're working with, some people have more active eyes than other people. Is something.
Yes.
And it is fun. I was doing a scene. I was rehearsing with Kirsten, who plays Maxie, and I don't need to see what her mouth does to know what she's thinking or feeling, because she sears her looks into me, and that was fascinating. And it was a completely novel experience, but it made complete sense at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So coming back to Max, coming back to Mike after the shutdown. Was it challenging to get back into him, or were you so comfortable in his skin and in his posture, and like that it just kind of, you fell back into it pretty quick?
Yeah, I think that I did. I intentionally, tried to kind of keep that hang on to whatever, that thread that you feel, that connection back to somebody that's become another you.
Yeah.
I can't even remember right now what the what the scene was that we did. It took me, a while to just sort of get a sense of rhythm. And a lot of it is, when is that point where you get a chance to kind of say or question or focus or look in on something in the scene that if you had more rehearsal time, you might all be talking about or something, but there's just that moment where you see there's a great big unspoken something here that we seem to have been blocked right past it. Like it's just going with that sort of rhythm of the dialogue, but there's actually, that's what the scene's about, and just that little where that is, which sometimes is a self-resolve.
Yes.
You don't even have to say it, but anyway. That's what I guess you were asking about, and it took a little while to get in that groove, for everybody, because you're also thinking about the mass and all that.
Sure.
But so much of what I did was laying in bed, just trying to remain active in that state, and explore that state and try to hold that space, kind of like what you do when you're off camera in a single camera, where it's somebody's close up. But some actors, they're done by then. They're giving you the lines, but they're gone. And others are right there. Sometimes that's your best work, is on the other side.
Yeah, right. When you're not overthinking what you're doing, you're just present. Yeah.
Max, I don't watch the show often. But I saw on social media, Alicia Lee Willis, who was on the show years ago, who plays Courtney, who's the one who kind of took you to heaven.
Yeah. Oh yes.
It looked visually, it looked so amazing, like how they did it. Did you see the end result of it?
I did.
Yeah, I thought they did a really great job, man. It was so touching. It was just like, I thought it couldn't have been better.
Yeah. Well, first of all, she had this beautiful energy, and Maurice said that's pretty much what she looked like when she left the show, but she was so present and generous and loving and gorgeous and all of that. And I felt actually, if one of the things that happened was that I had this thought that I hadn't had a chance to talk about, but that at some point, because my sweetheart has been what they call these days an energy healer, but she sees other things that other people see, but not everybody sees, and sometimes somebody that's, been a friend of mine on with very little time left in the hospital, but she sees him sitting there as a young man next to, so there is anyway, something about, and it seems like would be good to get a change in here when he actually gets out of bed.
Oh,
interesting.
And I asked the director, he said, "Oh yeah, we're going to do that." But by then they were really working on the light and getting the light effect right and everything like that. So it came to that moment, and okay, so 5 minutes, everybody, and I'm heading to the door, going, I can't get my other wardrobe, get changed, get my pale makeup, which is real greasy and stuff, washed off, get into makeup, I can't do that in 5 minutes. I'll do my best, and as they're getting that and winding up, I'm hearing Greg or whoever on the PA, Max, yeah, we need you on the set, buddy.
Give me some more. Give me some time,
like, so where is the transition where he looked back? Because I knew they were shooting it in a way he could see himself and sees what's going on, where he really puts that and sees his clothes and then really recognizes Courtney and ties into the
that's
moment
awesome.
In the earlier scene with Laura, then where I'd said, when Courtney died, I thought my heart died with her, and just that there was that moment, and it was like, when will the audience, when will everyone see that he's in some other wardrobe? And just in that moment, take it in that moment. But we just shot by it because it was like we're now, when you come on the set, everybody's waiting for you.
Sure.
You're just trying not to fall down. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Am I going to wear the hat? And so on and so forth. So I felt it was missed, and I thought at that point that was what I knew to be the last scene. And I didn't just take it home with me until the next morning or something like that. That just lingered with me. Missing such a moment, instead of just go, "Oh, hi, Courtney, nice to see you," but actually it flowed so well. I mean, all of my inspiration was based on what they had created anyway. And I thought it was beautifully done. And she, and her beautiful energy made it all work, but it was a wonderful concept to go ahead and try to make and keep it as simple as possible, but still be effective. And the part with him turning and talking to Mo, well, that was just, again, just kind of there when the writing's wonderful. You're just looking to find it and mean it and be with it. It's there. Well, that whole concept, I think, of being on the scientisty side of death, and at the same time, these other dimensions that we don't talk about in the modern world, sort of thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm curious. Obviously, you found a way to portray this condition, this disease, and whatever your resources for that were, you did that for a while. How did you approach the decline, and then the inevitable, massive decline towards the end? Is that something that was kind of a natural flow from where you were kind of playing that before, or did you have to really think about, not just the emotional part of it, but like the practical part of portraying it the way you wanted to?
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, what first comes to mind is my son at one point said, "Well, just keep smoking dope, Dad, you'll be all right." But, but actually, I had done a play a few years back for, I think, 6 or 8 weeks called The Prodigal Father, written by a gay playwright who did the Celebration Theater down in Hollywood, and a wonderful play, kind of autobiographical on his part. He was a big guy, looked like he could have played, certainly high, top college football. And he was from Tennessee, and his dad was a fellow who was very much church oriented in his social life, but his real life and spiritual life was in the woods. And, their background was in a little kind of flashback scene that's open to play where I'm his dad and he's a young boy, and we've got a coon tree, and I'm saying, "There he is right there, pull the trigger, shoot him," and he can't do it. So that's a way that then, you kind of like, this is his early life. Now it's the evening of the first time he's had a real serious production of one of his plays. And he comes back after the party and finds his roommate is there, and his father has shown up, and his father has dementia of some kind. And he's arrived because he's found himself, he knows he kind of comes to in certain cases where he's scared the shit out of somebody, or, turned some tables or something. He knows he's capable of doing something when he's not present. And he's there to ask his son to be sure to take him out before he takes somebody else out. And that was the play. So I had that to work on, to explore those spaces, being really somewhere else. And I guess I had my first play was Chief Bromden in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. There was an element of, a catatonic kind of, anyway, I had something there to start with. And then right around the time that it started to get to how do I tap into this behavior, I had agreed to be an ambassador for a group that reached out to me called Project Lifesaver International. It was formed by cops who eventually retired from Compton to keep this going. It's like 20 years old. And basically what they do is they use the technology for tracking wildlife, to track people who might wander or go off on their own mission, people with dementia, sometimes autism.
Wow.
And, they had that for Mike at his, around the house and stuff, but this works through police departments and communities. And so I was there at the first, their 20-year anniversary conference or whatever. And one of the panels had 4 people on the panel, and then another guy on the big screen, who was a man in his early 50s, who is the head of an Alzheimer's group, but also has early onset Alzheimer's. And I got to watch him in his presentation and then his whole reaction through the whole thing. And that was very helpful in him saying, so the things are growing darker and darker around me, as he's explaining and sharing, what's going on. And then they had some people there who go around the country training police departments in what's going on for people that have these deficits happening. So they would put you in heavy coat and gloves and hat and glasses that kind of gave you no peripheral vision, and earphones that had kind of random babble going on, and in a room with a coat rack and some luggage and some pharmaceuticals out and stuff, and they give you one time 4 directions for you to put the red sweater in the blue suitcase and count out 3 green pills and 3 blue pills, that you really can't even hold on to what those are. And there's this talking going on in your ear, and you have 15 minutes to try to do that. And then they take all that away. You go in the next room with the trainers in the more, institutional training setting, and they go over, facts and statistics and share and draw out people sharing their experience. And that was really helpful to me. It really gave me like, oh, I get it. Things that you think, oh, who could not see that? And these are to help the cop is going, I just told you, you can't stand here or something, to realize,
totally.
So
that's an interesting simulation for sure. Right. I mean, man, to be in that situation, just whether it's a family member or just a friend, and to go through that and have a simulation. I'm glad they do that, because then you can kind of sort of understand what people are dealing with. And it's,
you can approach it with a little more empathy, because you understand
totally
what it is. And because you're right. There are I can imagine there are frustrations when simple things aren't recognized, but not truly
get driven to the wall.
Yeah,
character, I mean, it's like it's just, I mean, it's just tragic and awful how some people will behave, and they've regressed to 13 or 9 or whatever, and so anyway, that's what I did. What I love about just this conversation and the relationships is that while there's not a whole lot of precious actor talk around people doing it, everybody's doing their work.
Mm.
And there's an interest in that, and there's, work is the word we use. It isn't quite the same as, other than when you get into any kind of task, even a really physical task, when you get into it, you've dropped into a zone, that flow state.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for sure.
In some ways, it's more like a flight,
Yeah,
or
totally
dance,
is. Yeah. It's go ahead, Brad.
Well, now that maybe, who knows, we may see Mike in certain situations, but in terms of like looking forward for Max, how are you going to, if your next job is a single cam, are you going to be radically impatient with everybody, or is it going to be a relief? Is it going to be relief to have some time to think about what you're doing?
Well, I certainly hope that, because I've never had a difficult time with lines if I really had understood what was going on there, but I did find it a lot when he would be really out, it wasn't just like I wanted to cross my eyes or something, so we'd say, okay, and they'd count down, and I'd kind of, do that phase shift into that other state, and then it was like, I don't know what my line is. This is the first line. I just heard it, but it's gone.
Right. Yeah.
So I hope that goes away. But I did have something happen right away that really felt good. I got a call from my agent, and there was a part in the film. I don't know a lot about the film, but it was several scenes shot in one day, set back in some time, and the character was kind of like inspired by at least John Ford, and it involved him in a restaurant, a big old time industry hang restaurant, where he sees what was once one of his young people he gave a first lead to, who has become a huge star. And that was being played by Sean Penn. And I know Sean, I worked with Sean, but I know him because I knew his dad and his mom, and I knew him living out in Point Doom. And so I know him on a number of levels, you know. I did a film that his dad wrote and directed, you know, so I thought, well, that's cool. And it was pretty interesting. And I looked up John, you know, and he's like, if you can get this stuff tomorrow, because they've been looking all over and they haven't found him. And that sometimes can be a good way to come in, you know, and, they meet and they get drunk, and then he arranges to do a spectacular motorcycle scene out on the golf course that's behind the restaurant, and you know, and it's all a big, you know, and so I thought, this just really feels right, and here it is, a job, and it's several good scenes. That's good. This is perfect, you know. Of course, so the next morning I'm trying to figure out all the things you want. What is the restaurant? And the scene took place, you know, after an evening of drink, after they'd been drinking and kind of caught, you know, there were a whole bunch of things to ask and wonder and look for and explore, you know, and at this moment, I think I should have just said all of that and talked about what I saw going on there, and let that part of me that understood that light come through, instead of trying to read this one scene. But with my grandson outside the door, Grandpa, are you done yet? You know, you know, and so I didn't get the gig. I haven't heard anything back from anybody about it since, you know, and so it was a sweet taste though of, you know, yes, doing that would be really cool.
Yeah,
and I think you just drop into it, you know, whatever it is, it's still all about that presence and being present, and the other people that are there, you know, clappers and setting lights and everything, they're all in on the same story, especially those people on the camera, you know what I mean? You know, there is a certain something that I think is that same where inner truth, you know, through imagination kind of quested, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't feel, you know, but I love the way that we can come in and rehearse and do something and put it out there and take your best shot. And you're not sitting around all day until they reset the whole scene from the other side of the room.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Should we expect to see, next time we see you, should we expect to see your hair getting back to its regular shoulder length, or is it going to stay high and tight for the foreseeable future?
You know, basically it's like it happens because I don't get a haircut, and I basically grow a beard because I don't feel like shaving, you know, right. And when it's scratchy or whatever I do. So, but at the same time, you know, there is something, you know, about the times and moving on and everything. And I, you know, there have been times where I cut my hair short and left it that way for a bit. I did that with Wodrow. I had long hair, and I said, I wonder when I got offered the job. I was thinking that guy I played small college football with, you know, that we called Bullet, because he always had his hair cut real close, you know. And my girlfriend at the time had that kind of haircut. And as I was thinking about it, all of a sudden I hear the snippers, you know, and she's cutting my hair off, and that became Wodrow, you know. And then as my hair got thinner and thinner and I didn't know how to deal with it, I ended up putting on a little bathing cap kind of wig that let me grow my hair longer again. And I guess I had a certain attachment to what that said about me or whatever. But
sure.
I think even though I would have to pay for a haircut now, so that may.
Well, listen, if Mike comes back as a ghost, we can't be having Mike with long hair as a ghost.
No, I don't think so.
You can always tuck it back up into your
you could always tuck it back
to your cap. So
yeah, no, I think it's the particularly the fringe long hair has a certain sort of comical look, you know, that I love humor and I love to get laughs, but not that particular.
That's amazing.
Laugh with me, not at me. Eh?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well,
hey,
Max,
man, well,
we're
all the better for having you with us.
Yeah, we thank you so much, man. Again, there hasn't been anybody who's come to our show and brought so much, just love and compassion and just willingness and openness as an artist that so many people could connect with. And the story, obviously, you said it yesterday on the phone to me, it takes a village to do the story for sure. But you were a great leader and a great example. So I really appreciate the time that I got with you.
That is really cool. I mean, that's what I was going for. I mean, and I found it there. I knew I just wanted to give it, my all, and hoped it would be enough. And I found it, matching up all the way. So, so back at you. But thank you. I accept, and I'm honored by what you've just shared with me, and I'll never forget it.
Awesome, man. Well,
thank you
thank you for everything, and it's hopefully it's a see you later and not a goodbye.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
Much love.
Amen.
Thank
you. All right,
well.
Thanks, Max. Wow, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. We don't always, we're not always there. Like, I certainly wasn't there for his funeral.
Yeah.
I wasn't there when the cast says goodbye. And, that's always a special moment when, someone's moving on from the show, and you get that moment of goodbye. And of course now, did they do anything on stage for him?
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
they did. Okay. I wasn't sure in times of COVID if you could do that.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, man.
This was really a nice privilege to get to say all those things to him.
Sure was.
Yeah.
I just don't remember a story that resonated with so many people.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that lack of what I told him about, being on social media and not hearing any negativity. And not to say that I thought there should have been. It's not that. It's just,
right.
Normally whatever storyline you see, there's usually someone on both sides, right? It's like, oh, I love this storyline. Oh, this storyline sucks. Like, and obviously when you're dealing with a medical issue or something that affects so many people in their lives, I don't think it's a storyline that it calls for that sort of opinion-based banter. But usually there's at least somebody that crosses the line into there. And and I didn't see any of it.
No. And they really did it justice, which a lot of times, like you said, the ball gets dropped, and then they try to pick it up and there's no momentum, or it's just going on too long. And
right.
Yes, somebody with Alzheimer's dementia could last 10, 15, 20 years, but this was an A storyline, and it was awesome. And they did a great job. And Maurice and Max could win an Emmy again
if they submit themselves.
I'll make them.
Well, because like that,
I'll make them submit
that
themselves.
was an issue for this year. I know, I think we talked about it before. Somebody said, how come they didn't get it? And it's like, well, they took themselves out of the opportunity to give space for other people.
Yeah. Because they won the year before. So
right, exactly. Yeah, so I think
oh man,
here's a zag, dude. Here's a zag.
Are you zagging me?
Yeah, look at that. What? Look what happened there.
How'd you go there, dude?
Well, because one came up today, and I just had to I just screen grabbed it, and it just seems like a nice way out.
Segue me out, because I was getting a little emotional with.
Yeah, you're getting a little misty. So so okay, so on our Stone Cold and the Jackal Twitter today.
It's on there.
Yes.
Oh,
and
amazing.
I think it's inadvertent. It's not someone trying to be mean.
Okay.
The way I read it.
Max just texted me.
Made me laugh.
Max Gail just texted me. He goes, "I love being able to have that conversation with you guys." So
amazing.
So nice.
That's this, and we have all the thanks to you guys listening. This show has given us an opportunity to have conversations that we wouldn't have otherwise, probably, and it's a real joy. It's a real joy.
Because all it's done is help us grow as people.
Yes.
Which is amazing, right?
Well, and helped us establish relationships and deepen relationships with people, and
absolutely
get to know people that we wouldn't have otherwise, had the opportunity to visit with. It's a real joy to do this. And And
All
it's
right,
a real
back to
joy-
mean
and-
tweets.
Yeah. Okay. So on the SCNJ Twitter page, an old picture of us on the Atlantic City Boardwalk was
Yes.
posted.
Yes.
Yes. And the response, and I say this, and so if you're listening, whoever wrote this, I'm not criticizing you. I'm not saying you meant to be mean, but it was just funny the way it reads.
Oh,
okay. Beeford Anderson looks incredibly young in this pic. I know that you all were younger, but @1 Steve Burton hasn't changed too much. So it must be the healthy lifestyle. Basically saying Steve looks the same. All the rest of us have aged horribly. Right? That's how it reads.
Absolutely.
God, you look so young in this pic. I know that you all were younger, but Steve hasn't changed that much. What happened to you? Guess it's the healthy lifestyle that Steve does instead of all the beer and bonbons that Bradford consumes.
Well, there's the difference. Hey, a bottle of wine a day keeps the doctor away.
There you go.
Does it?
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh man.
That is
so
funny, dude.
anyway.
Oh man.
Yeah,
What a great
so
podcast today.
That
So
was fun.
Yeah.
But speaking of Port Chuck, as we said at the top of the show, that's coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
So if you care to join us, come to our Patreon page, patreon.com/stonecoldandthejackal.
Yeah. Or you can go to stonecoldandthejackal.com and watch a video on our
Yep.
homepage that shows you how to join. And
Yeah.
we're so looking forward to it. I'm starting to learn my songs again now.
Well, and if you if you're not able to join us for karaoke, after karaoke we're doing a Q&A, and that's for every level on Patreon. Yeah, so we're super excited for it, and thank you guys for listening.
Thank you guys so much for listening, so we get to do cool stuff like this. We appreciate it.
For sure. All right, have a great week.